I'm Dana Denha, and you're watching FYI. Ann Arbor is home to more than 160 parks, and these naturescapes provide a certain quality of life we all expect here in the city. It takes a lot of hard work, dedication, and funds for the Parks and Rec to maintain these sanctuaries for people, animals, and plants alike. This November election, the Ann Arbor Parks Maintenance and Capital Improvement Millage is on the ballot to continue to keep Ann Arbor parks flourishing for years to come. Joining me is Josh Landefeld, Parks and Recreation Services Manager for the City of Ann Arbor. Welcome to the show, Josh.
Thank you for having me.
Josh, can you tell us a little bit about the current millage that will be expiring this year and maybe some of the big projects we've seen in recent years?
Yeah, the current millage has been in place since 2006 and has been renewed in 2012 and 2018. Some of the projects that we did over the last 6 years include the Argo ADA improvements and restroom renovation and expansions, the Gallup vehicular bridge, which we'll be completing here very, very soon. Also a bridge at Bandamere for vehicular access. And then some playgrounds at Almendinger, Lockett Park, West Park, Bromley, and the Barton Nature area. On top of that, we added UV filtration systems at all four of our city pools, as well as improving pathways at Riverside, Gallup, Barton, and Plymouth Parkway to improve access along those sides. So those are just some of the projects that we are due on top of all the minor repairs that take place every single day within our park system.
Sure. And even like mentioning, if you have a neighborhood playground, a lot of people have playgrounds in their neighborhood, they have parks. And if it starts getting a little dilapidated, people want their playgrounds to be fixed so they can walk their kids down to the park.
For sure. I mean, one of the things, all playgrounds, as you speak about them, have a roughly 30-year life cycle. We have just about over 70 playgrounds in our parks. So trying to repair those and replace them over 4 or 5 a year would be a 20-year project. So we really try to keep them up to date, keep them safe, ensure that everyone that comes into the parks have an opportunity to enjoy them.
Well, can you tell me a little bit about the new millage? You were mentioning before that the other ones were renewed in 2006, 2012, 2018. So this is a 20-year one that we're approving, right?
Yeah, that is what is on the ballot. The current millage has been in place for what is it now 18 years. We've had strong support in the previous millage renewals, so we're hoping that we'll continue to have that this year. The goal of going to 20 years provides us with a long-term commitment by the community to support parks. We have a lot of needs coming about. We just completed an ADA study that found $19 million of barriers within our parks for access. We are also working on a capital assessment study to identify what are our infrastructure needs coming and the liabilities that will be associated with them in the near future.
So when we talk about the new millage, is it really just about how much is allocated and then you figure out some of the projects as you go?
Yeah, so there's some administrative rules for the millage, and these are consistent with what was founded in roughly 2011 is when these rules came into effect. But they are divvied up between 60 to 80% of parks maintenance, and then 20 to 40% is in capital improvements. So we work within those percentages, and over the lifetime of this millage, we've been at about 70-30 between park maintenance and capital improvements. So that gives us our funding amounts, so we know what we can do each year with them. And then through a variety of different iterations from the capital improvement plan to our pros plan to community and resident input, and staff recommendations, we determine what are the projects that are needed and how do we begin to fund those over the coming years.
Do you have any current projects right now that maybe we haven't seen yet that we will see in the near future with hopes that this millage is passed?
Yeah, so there's a number of playgrounds that we have on our list. As I said, this is kind of an every year type of thing. We're looking at Sugar Bush, Clinton Park, the Fuller Park Playground. A number of those are going to be coming along soon. The Barton to Bandamere Tunnel, which is part of the Border to Border Trail, which will be starting next year, would be funded by the Parks Millage. in all of our facilities. Really, we have a number of facilities that were built in the 60s and 70s that were repaired in the 80s and 90s and are coming up again here soon. So pool filtration systems at Fuller, Buer, the rink systems at Buer and Veterans Memorial are all part of this. And then the other thing that we look at regularly is what are additional amenities that we can add to the park system. Really trying to look at what are the trends today compared to the trends 20 years ago and identify those, whether that's pickleball courts, whether that is, basketball courts, whether that's more pathways and more benches and things for people to respite at. So constantly looking to see what we can do to add and improve our park system.
So are the parks partially funded by the city, or does the millage fund the majority of it?
The millage funds about 40% of our budget. The parks budget at this point is $18 million, and with roughly 7.5 coming from the millage, and then the remaining coming from the general fund. The parks have the ability to offset about $5.5 million through registration fees, through program fees, and different means like that. So neither one covers our entire budget, but we really work hard to identify ways to support the millage and the general fund to make our park system what it is.
Well, can you talk about, let's talk about different departments in the parks, because these departments are basically funded through the millage and such. So let's go through, like, what does forestry do and how do we see a change with forestry? Because obviously trees are a big deal in Ann Arbor and they need to be trimmed.
For sure, for sure. I mean, in our park property, we have hundreds of thousands of trees in our park system, from our natural areas to our manicured parks, and all of that takes a lot of care. And so it's not just the pruning and the trimming that you see that make the trees look good, but also it allows us to address safety concerns. When we have down trees that cross pathways or potential for hanging into park spaces. This last year, we also saw the first case of oak wilt in our park system. So having this forestry fund allows us to address both the tree health as well as when trees begin to die or create safety concerns for our community. So having that funding available is extremely important.
Yeah, I mean, that has to be just a constant thing that these forestry guys are always looking to see when trees need to be trimmed or cut down completely, replanted. It just has to be like a never-ending cycle with how many trees we have in our area.
For sure. For
Can
sure.
you talk about the natural area preservation? I think we've all are sort of somewhat familiar with them, but they do a lot for our community.
Right. You mentioned the 160 plus parks in your opening. That is roughly about 2,200 acres of park land in the city of Ann Arbor, or 10% of the land in Ann Arbor. The Natural Area Preservation, or NAP, is responsible for the care of roughly 1,400 acres of natural areas in our park system. And it is fully funded through our parks millage. The mission of NAP is to protect and restore Ann Arbor's natural areas and to foster an environmental ethic within the community. So really, it is ensuring that we have a rich biodiversity of flora and fauna in our park system, and provide these buffers to be really the lungs of our community, through all the carbons sequestration that it has, as well as just being a nice place to go have a respite as an individual out in the woods somewhere.
Well, and obviously NAP is a volunteer program, but one of the major volunteer programs with the parks is Give 365. Can you talk a little bit more about that? What Give 365 offers to the parks?
Yeah, so while NAP focuses on the natural areas and the stewardship of that land, Give 365 was to provide opportunities to the community in our facilities and our non-natural areas, so kind of our mode park area. And NAP is really an opportunity for us to try and do different things within our park system. Again, fully funded by the millage, but it leads park beautification and maintenance efforts. So again, with 70 plus playgrounds, we need weeding, we need improvements, we need fiber and mulch put down on a variety of those. So a lot of our projects kind of address those needs. as well as creating programs and opportunities for people to enjoy our parks in general. The Visit Every Park program was started during the pandemic, and it has seen a lot of individuals go out and realize that we do have a lot of parks, and each of them offer something different. This past weekend, we had the Trick or Treat Paddle, which was an idea and a creation from Give 365 to get people out on the river towards the end of the year and have a little bit of fun with it.
Well, both of these programs are programs that rely on volunteers. Can you talk about how the Millage supports volunteerism and why people should take advantage of these volunteer opportunities in the park system?
For sure. I mean, volunteerism is extremely beneficial to both the individual and the Parks Department. By volunteering in our park system, individuals develop a deeper appreciation for our park system and also a greater connection to nature. In regards to our department, it just allows us to do so much more, whether it be to remove more invasives or provide a unique experience in a facility like a splash day or the trick or treat paddle.
Yeah, I mean, those things are like things that we sort of expect in the community, and this millage is obviously supporting those things. And we've had the millage for so long that you don't think about it a lot, but it's obviously something that we need to think about now on the ballot for this year.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
what are some of the, you talk about that some of this is funded by the city, some of this is funded by the millage, but then there's this matching funds that comes into play as well.
Yeah, so one of the things is with a park system as vast and as vast as ours, we really are never going to have the funds internally to address all of our needs. And one of the things that I am most proud of over the last 6 years is that we have been able to identify and secure over $7.5 million of outside funding to support the work we do here in the community. Some of that is through federal programs like ARPA, which has helped us with the Gallup Vehicular Bridge. Some of them are through the state of Michigan. We received $300,000 for the Argo ADA improvements that were done over the last few years. Some of them are relationships with Washtenaw County. 30,000 was provided for the skate park lighting project that we did. And then some of them are based on partnerships. With the Border to Border, we work very closely with the Washtenaw County Parks and HWPI, our Huron Waterloo's Pathway initiatives, that have split that project into three portions. So what is a $6 million project is only costing the City of Ann Arbor Parks Department $2 million. So it really is trying to find those outside ways to allow us to do more, and every little dollar helps. And by having a long-term commitment from the community with the millage will allow us to focus more on finding those outside funding sources as opposed to worrying about the internal funding sources.
You mentioned the ADA compliance quite a bit. Can you talk a little bit more about that and why it's so important to have these funds to make the parks accessible for everyone?
Yeah, I mean, parks are one of the spaces that, public spaces that everyone should be able to use for free. And going out to your neighborhood park is an important way to connect with nature, to be healthy, to clear your head and just feel good about your day. And what we found is that though that report, as I mentioned, spoke to $19 million of barriers, and that's everything from sidewalks to handle rails to drinking fountains to the signage that we have in our buildings to how we promote them. So to be a truly inclusive parks department where everyone not only feels welcome but is welcome, it was really an important step to take in identifying those and developing a plan on how we move those forward. And at $1 million per year for the next 30 years, it's really going to determine a big part of how we create and improve our park system.
Well, obviously, people could vote already because you can absentee vote. I have my ballot here. I haven't done it yet. But can you talk about, I think one of the things that's always confusing when it comes down to passing millages and proposals and stuff is that the ballot language can be just written a little confusing, and can you explain it so everyone can understand what they potentially are voting yes for?
Yeah, so what this ballot is proposing is to levy a tax on the on individual on homeowners of a 1.1 mil, which equates to for the average homeowner with a property value of 100 roughly $170,000 is $195 per year, or roughly $1.20 per park is what the millage will pay, a homeowner will pay per park. It'll generate an estimated $8.5 million. But it basically is saying that for the next 20 years, the city will levy a tax of 1.1 mil based on and in compliance with the Headley Act to every home to provide resources and funding for the park system.
Josh, are you Ann Arbor resident?
I am. I am. I grew up here, went away for a little bit of time, and now Ann Arbor resident with my family.
Well, obviously, especially when you have a family, I feel like the parks are really like something that you frequent often. I mean, you don't have to have a family to either. You can just take a walk, enjoy nature. But what have you seen firsthand? What do you believe is so important to have these parks maintain the way they are as a resident?
Yeah, I will say that growing up in Ann Arbor and having a park system like we do here is really helped create the person that I am today. I spent a lot of time at Fuller on the soccer fields, playing games, having role models, and it really forced me to think about what I wanted to do with my career. And when I had that opportunity to provide experiences and opportunities like I had as a young child for the next generation is why I really wanted to be in this role. Um, but what do I see firsthand? Any day you can go into our park system and see a child jumping into the pool for the first time, overcoming a fear. Seniors connecting and staying active through dedicated program at our senior center or in our park system. The sense of community that is developed through pickup basketball and soccer games, that are not organized but just out in those areas. And families walking and playing in our parks and playgrounds to develop a deeper connection as a family, but also with their neighbors and their friends. I tell my staff, and I've always had a belief that parks and recreation and parks facilities should be the best part of people's days. They come there to have a good time, to get away from it, to whether it's as simple as sitting on a bench under some shade on a long day, or really getting out there and getting some exercise to feel good about themselves. That's what we're trying to provide every single day.
Yeah, even mentioning the bridge at Gallup, I think not having that bridge accessible this summer was like something that people were just missing, that easy access to get to that great playground that is fairly new, an amazing playground at that place.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, the playground you spoke of is a universal access playground. So as we speak about ADA, the more playgrounds that we can provide within our community that are universally accessible is a really important thing to do. And yeah, I mean, every road, every path, every parking lot, every facility has needs. And we don't really think about how much they mean to us until they're not available or they're in poor condition. And so our goal is to continue to try to stay ahead of that, having a preventative maintenance, having an understanding of our long-term, liabilities is a key component to why this millage and the length of this millage is so important to the park system.
Well, Ann Arbor has had some sort of parks millage in place since the 1980s, according to my research. Why should we? Obviously, it's something that we've always cared about. And why should we continue to keep this going for the next 20 years? Vote yes on this. You probably won't even notice the money being gone from your bank account.
Well, I mean, I think Ann Arbor parks are a key component of why Ann Arbor is recognized as one of the best places to live in America. The millage has and will continue to support not only our ability to maintain that park system, to ensure that it remains the community asset that it is, but also allows us to look at how we need to grow and improve our park system for the next generation, for the future of that. So, without the millage, we will do what we can, but $8.5 million per year is really challenging to figure out how to maintain at the same level without that funding.
Yeah, and I just think about personally, like my own kids, and even like my daughter's birthday this year, and how we were at Fuller Park and how much fun it was, and the slides were great, and the pool was maintained, and I think it was just like an amazing time. And I think those are the things you have to think about when you're voting this year.
I hope so.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Josh, and telling us all about the millage that we should be voting yes for.
Thank you so much for having me.
For more on this and other programs, visit a2gov.org/CTN. Visit youtube.com/CTN Ann Arbor to see all that we have to offer. And remember to like, subscribe, and ring that notification. Thanks for watching and tune in next time to FYI.